The system loves men. WHO can't say no. You're not tired. You're trained to say yes, trained to comply, trained to swallow frustration and call it responsibility. If that hits a nerve, it's because it's true. You're not exhausted from effort. You're exhausted from obedience, from agreeing to things you don't respect, from living by expectations you never chose. Every day you say yes to more than you should, more work, more distractions, more obligations. You tell yourself it's temporary. You tell yourself discipline can wait. You tell yourself comfort won't cost you much. It already has. The system doesn't reward strong boundaries. It rewards men who bend. Men who hesitate are easy to manage. Men who explain themselves are easy to control. Men who can't say no become perfect employees, perfect consumers, and weak leaders of their own lives. This didn't happen by accident. You were conditioned. Obedience was praised. Questioning was punished. Approval became safety without realizing it. You learned that being agreeable felt smarter than being dangerous. So now you overthink. You delay. You negotiate with yourself instead of acting. And the cost shows up quietly. In the exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, in the frustration that never turns into action, in the anger you feel but never use. Saying no feels risky because it is. It threatens comfort, it threatens approval, it threatens the version of you that learned how to survive instead of dominate. Here's the truth: the moment you learn to say no without guilt, you stop being controllable, and a man who isn't controllable changes everything. Stay here, this is where your discipline begins. How they broke your backbone without you noticing. You weren't born weak. You were trained to hesitate. And no one ever sat you down and said they were going to take your edge. They didn't have to. The process was quiet, gradual, polite every time. You were told to wait instead of act. Every time you were punished for pushing back. Every time you were rewarded for staying in line. That's how it starts. You learn early that being agreeable keeps life smooth, that challenging authority creates problems, that standing your ground comes with consequences. So you adapt, you soften your tone, you second guess your instincts, you stop trusting yourself. Over time, hesitation becomes your default. You don't make decisions, you poll opinions, you don't move with urgency, you wait for perfect conditions, you don't say no. You explain yourself until the moment passes. That's not maturity, that's conditioning. The system doesn't need to overpower men anymore. It just needs them unsure. Unsure men ask for permission. Unsure men look for validation. Unsure men stay stuck preparing while life passes them by. Here's the part that should make you angry. Every institution benefits from your hesitation. Your job benefits when you don't push back. Your phone benefits when you can't unplug. Your habits benefit when you keep saying tomorrow. You call it patience. But patience without action is just fear dressed up as discipline. You feel it when opportunities pass and you say you weren't ready. You feel it when someone crosses a line and you stay quiet. You feel it when your body, your money, and your standards slowly decline and you can't pinpoint when you lost control. This is how men become spectators in their own lives, not because they lack ability, but because they've been trained to doubt it. Breaking this pattern isn't comfortable. It requires friction, conflict, discomfort. You'll feel selfish, you'll feel rude, you'll feel like you're doing something wrong. That's withdrawal, because the moment you stop hesitating, everything shifts. The moment you act without asking, the moment you say no and let the silence sit, that's when you start taking your power back. And next, we move into the pain phase, where discipline stops being an idea and starts costing you something real. Stay locked in. Discipline starts where comfort ends. This is where most men quit, not because they can't do it, but because discipline threatens who they think they are. You're used to comfort being the reward, sleeping in, scrolling, eating what feels good, avoiding tension. So when discipline shows up and demands sacrifice, your mind looks for a way out. You tell yourself it's not sustainable. You tell yourself you'll start next week. You tell yourself you've already been through enough. That voice isn't logic. It's comfort fighting for survival, because discipline isn't motivational, it's confrontational. It forces you to wake up when you don't feel ready, to train when no one is watching, to say no when saying yes would be easier. And here's the hardest part: nobody claps for discipline in the beginning. You don't get applause for turning your phone off. You don't get praise for leaving early. You don't get recognition for choosing pain over pleasure. All you get is resistance from your body, from your habits, from people who were comfortable with the old version of you. This is where men separate, weak men negotiate, strong men execute. Weak men ask how long it will take. Strong men decide who they're becoming and accept the cost. Discipline is the moment you stop asking how you feel and start asking what the situation requires, because control isn't built through motivation, it's built through repetition under pressure. Every time you choose discomfort, you rebuild trust with yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, you reclaim authority over your life, and slowly something changes. You stop needing permission, you stop seeking validation, you stop reacting, you start deciding. Next, we go deeper. This is where discipline turns into control, and control turns into dominance. Stay with it, this is where it gets serious. Control is built in silence. This is the phase no one talks about, because it's lonely, because it's boring, because there's nothing to post and nothing to prove yet. This is where control is built, not in loud moments, not in public wins, but in quiet decisions no one will ever see. You wake up earlier than you need to. You train when your body feels slow. You keep promises even when breaking them would be easy, and nothing seems to happen. At least nothing you can point to. This is where most men panic. They assume it's not working. They look for signs, for proof, for validation, and when it doesn't show up fast enough, they drift back to comfort. But control doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. It shows up when chaos hits and you don't flinch. When pressure rises and your mind stays clear, when everyone else reacts and you stay steady, that's power. You stop being pulled by impulses. You stop being hijacked by emotions. You stop getting dragged into things that don't serve you. Here's where everything changes. People feel it before they understand it. They can't explain why your presence feels heavier, why your words land differently, why you don't rush to respond. You're no longer available on demand. You're no longer easy to read. You're no longer predictable, and unpredictability is dangerous to systems built on control. This is where men either harden or disappear, because control requires restraint, and restraint feels like loss at first. You give up comfort, you give up instant relief, you give up the old version of yourself that needed noise to feel alive. What you gain is authority, authority over your time, authority over your energy, authority over your reactions. Next, we cross the final line. This is where control becomes dominance, and you stop surviving the system and start operating above it. Don't blink. When control turns into dominance, this is the point of no return, because once you reach this stage, you can't go back to who you were, even if you wanted to. Dominance isn't aggression, it isn't noise, it isn't trying to prove anything. Dominance is presence. It's walking into a room without needing approval. It's making decisions without asking for permission. It's knowing exactly what you will tolerate and what you won't before anything even happens. Most men think dominance is about force. It's not. Force is what you use when you lack control. Dominance is what happens when your standards are non-negotiable. You stop explaining yourself. You stop oversharing your plans. You stop reacting emotionally to pressure. Not because you're cold, but because you're grounded. You've done the work in silence. You've endured boredom. You've chosen pain again and again while others chose relief. And now the dynamic shifts. People hesitate around you. They listen when you speak. They sense you're not available for manipulation. Not because you threaten them, but because you're no longer dependent on their reaction. That's real power. This is where the system struggles. Because systems depend on predictability. They depend on distraction. They depend on men who choose comfort over progress. But a disciplined man doesn't chase comfort. He uses it when necessary and discards it the moment it becomes a weakness. You move differently now. You act fast and think clearly. You don't wait for motivation. You move on command. You don't hope for confidence. You generate it through action. Here's the truth most people won't tell you. Very few men ever reach this level. Not because it's impossible, but because it demands sustained sacrifice with no guarantees. And once you're here, life changes permanently. You stop surviving the system. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop asking what's allowed. You decide one part left, and in the final part, this ends where it should, with a line drawn. A choice made, and no room left for excuses. Stay locked in. Draw the line or stay on. This is where everything gets decided. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Because once you see the system for what it is, you don't get to pretend you didn't know. You know now. You know that every time you hesitate, someone else benefits. You know that every time you choose comfort, you delay becoming who you're capable of being. You know that every yes given out of fear is a piece of your life you don't get back. Here's the harsh truth. If you don't control your time, your body, your attention, and your standards, someone else will. That's not paranoia, that's reality. The system doesn't need to chain you, it just needs you distracted, tired, and agreeable. So this is the line. On one side is the life you've been tolerating, the long days, the muted ambition, the quiet frustration you carry but never use. On the other side is discipline, isolation, pressure, responsibility. No one is coming to save you on that side. No one is going to clap, no one is going to understand at first. And that's the point. Men who wait for permission never lead. Men who need approval never dominate. Men who avoid pain never change. If you walk away from this and nothing changes, that's a decision. If you keep saying yes to everything, that's a decision. If you stay comfortable while knowing better, that's a decision. Just don't lie to yourself and call it bad luck. From this moment forward, you either become a man who draws lines or a man who gets managed. So here's the action. Say no to one thing today that weakens you. Do one hard thing you've been avoiding. Remove one distraction that's been stealing your edge. Not to feel motivated, but to prove control. Because the man who can say no to comfort, to pressure, to weakness, is the man the system can't own. And once you're no longer owned, everything changes. This isn't the end, this is the standard. Now live up to it.